Welcome to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller. Today, I'm sitting in with Mr. Steve Osango from the Nightly News. Steve, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you, sir.
Not a problem. And today we are sitting in with Canale. She is the Vice President of Chamber Operations for the Harrisburg Regional Chamber. Kara, welcome to the program today.
Thanks for having me.
Certainly not a problem. Kara is actually here today because she's coming into one of my classes, and she's actually come in before. Kara has worked in public relations in the public relations sector for how long now?
About 7 years.
So 7 years you've been in public relations. So one of the things that we're going to talk about today is some of the things that maybe Kara did back when she was in college to sort of prepare herself for this next step. First off, let me ask you a question, Kara. Vice President of Chamber Operations, can you just tell me really quickly what that means as far as maybe partial job description or something like that?
Sure. So together with my team of about 5 others within the chamber side of our shop, we are responsible for delivering the best service to our members and carrying out our mission to be a catalyst for job creation and a strong business community within the Harrisburg region.
That is unbelievably fantastic. I've always been a huge advocate of small business. What percentage of the businesses in the chamber would you say are small businesses?
We actually have a lot of small businesses. The majority of our members are actually small businesses, and that is 10 or fewer employees. Huge part of our region, and the chamber covers Dauphin, Cumberland, and Perry counties. So you can imagine, anytime you go out to a shopping plaza, go out to find something, a special gift, or just finding something that you can't get from a large retailer, there are small businesses everywhere you turn.
I've actually, and I know I've shared this with you in the past, but one of the things and how I sort of got into my position is I've worked in social media for a very long period of time. And one thing that I do is I represent several small businesses. And in fact, I've worked with exclusively small businesses on social media. And one of the things when I sit down, and Carolyn put it to you this way, I'm sort of their de facto marketing director because these companies do not have a budget. And if they do have a budget, it's very, very minimal. So by doing what I do on social media, I'm basically the main marketing efforts that they have. But that being said, I've actually referred a couple of different of my small business clients to their local chambers, and I've actually been one that's advocated what the chamber does for small businesses. So I am absolutely on board with the mission of your organization, and I think it's wonderful that our small businesses have this type of outlet for, to promote themselves in the community. So what I want to do today is I want to start off by talking about sort of a student-focused and then maybe more alumni-focused in the second part of the show. Now, from a student's perspective, can you just share some of the things that you did while you were in college to get you to that point that when it came graduation time, you had a wealth of experience?
Sure. So when I went into college, I was convinced that I was going to graduate and start working on political campaigns. So I was deciding, between majors, and obviously political science would stick out to somebody looking for that career pathway. And in talking to a couple different people that were in the political arena, they were very clear that political science doesn't have to be your only option. You could go for biology and you could work on political campaigns. So I looked at that, and I looked at what I was interested in, and also, what skills I needed to get into that career. And I settled on a communications major. Now, within that, communications majors can find internships in so many different organizations. It's similar to, I like to think it's similar to accounting, where every organization needs an accountant, every organization needs somebody in some communications capacity. So I started doing some internships. I interned for a state political party. From there, I interned for a state senator. And both of those were able to really show me both what I liked about the working world and, more importantly, what I didn't like. So I was able to narrow down my career path, tried a couple different internships, and decided to, in my senior year, intern for a public relations firm in downtown Harrisburg. I went to Elizabethtown College, so Harrisburg was very close, and there are just a wealth of internship opportunities in the city.
You know, Kara, one of the things that I point out to a lot of the students being in the Harrisburg region is people don't think of Harrisburg as a major market, but we're still a top 100 market in the country. So there's still a lot of growth potential. Plenty of jobs. I mean, even in the public relations sector or communication sector, there are tons of jobs in this area and tons of major businesses that, have their headquarters in this area as well.
Absolutely. We are actually at a point right now in our area where we have more jobs than we have people looking for jobs. The jobs are out there. Yeah, absolutely.
I tried to tell you that, Steve.
Yeah, you did.
But yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful area, a wonderful organization to be in. So when you were in college, you had multiple internships and at different places. I want to go back to something that you said right there. You said something along the lines of, I found what I liked, but I also found what I didn't like. Isn't part of the education process to find what you love to do? I mean, I think so many people, and I see it all the time because I have a freshman seminar class, CPC Foundations class, which is the very first class that most of our students take, and we do a focused career assessment. And I think so many people come in here, maybe somebody else told them, a parent told them, hey, you should go for this or go for that, and they really don't like it. Or maybe if they do like it, maybe they're just still not sure in what direction they're going to go. And I think internships can go a really long way to showing someone, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life?
I actually like to think of internships as a 12-week interview process, both from the perspective of the intern and the employer. It's a great opportunity to get your foot in the door, understand exactly what an entry-level position is like within that specific organization and within that career path, and it really gives you that definitive answer at the end of those 12 weeks. Is this right for me? Is this organization right for me? And is this career right for me? I think, part of it is what type of an organization do you want to get that that experience with? Especially when we look at the communications field, you could work with anybody from a small business who may not have a full-time communications person on staff to a Fortune 500 company like the Hershey Company. So there's a lot of different pathways to look at. And then it's just figuring out, what your resume needs to look like.
Okay.
One of the things is that I've always noticed with communications, this is something that I actually ran into when I was an undergrad, sort of in Steve's shoes, is that I went for communications because it was so vast, because there were so many options out there. I could do this, I could go into journalism, I could go into radio, I could go into public relations, I could go into film and film production, audio production. And I think that was sort of to my detriment to a point because I was all in on radio. I was all in on radio. I was on the college radio station for 4 years. I interned at a radio station. I ended up working at a radio station. And I'm graduated. I'm making $8 an hour. And so, fortunately, I had enough foresight to get out of the industry before it, went off a cliff. Because I don't think anybody can argue that radio is, there's no money to be made in radio unless you're in sales. And that wasn't really what I wanted to do. Now, I'm very fortunate that years later, I'm able to use my radio experience as part of my job, and I think that it's wonderful, and I encourage the students to get involved in podcasting and things like that. So I think that, at least in communications, but also in other fields too, I think a lot of people enter them because they're broad, right, but then don't set up some type of focus while they are involved in school to sort of get into that niche of, all the different areas within a major. So one of the things, Steve, that I wanted to talk to you about is obviously you've done a lot of video production work, not even just for certain things on campus, although we are working on a video project right now, but really for your own, personal. So how can you talk about, so you already know that, getting involved in film is something that you're interested in doing. Correct. So how did you try to develop those skills while you were here at the college?
Obviously join a lot of clubs because I like to interact with a lot of people. Interacting with a lot of people definitely helps when you're a people's person. Whether you think that or not, it just helps you embrace everybody from all types of life, and it just helps you as a character, you know.
Well, Steve, don't be modest here. So you've been a part of the nightly news for basically ever since our inception.
Right.
You are also a major part of the Central Penn Players. We have a theater group here on campus, so Steve has been in many of the shows. You're also a very established soccer player as well, so you've been involved with a lot of different things. So how do you think, let's just take the nightly news and the Central Penn Players, how do you think those two clubs and activities really helped you to get to the point where you are today?
Well, it sharpened my the skills that I like to have, which is acting. Those, if you ask any actor, they can always get better. So I definitely did that. With the theater, I'm more of a film person now, but I started theater in high school. It gave me benefits to see, like, I definitely got into theater in high school, but like as I continued, I saw that I was more into film. So it helped me, like you said, with I think it was the political thing that you worked for. So it helped me see that I'm not just trying to go into the theater aspect, but the film aspect. So it helped me, like, you know.
Well, certainly, too, Steve, being in front of people, being a communications major, I mean, to me, if somebody was maybe shy, not to say that you are, but if somebody in general was maybe shy coming into college and wanted to get into communications, maybe joining the theater might be a way for them to sort of break out of their shell a little bit.
Correct.
Well, Kiara, I want to move on to some of the other aspects that I want to chat with you about today, and I appreciate you sharing the insight with some of our students. Now I want to go to a little bit more of an alumni-centric question. So obviously you work with the Harrisburg Regional Chamber. I would like you to talk about some of the benefits of joining the chamber. We briefly mentioned it earlier, but we've got a lot of small business owners out there that are Central Penn graduates, and I'd love for you to chat with about some of the benefits that the Harrisburg Regional Chamber can bring these small businesses.
Absolutely. So the Harrisburg Regional Chamber is a little bit different from your average chamber because we are actually have a economic development corporation under our umbrella as well. So we're the Harrisburg Regional Chamber and Capital Region Economic Development Corporation. So that opens up a very wide world of possibilities for all types of businesses. Our economic development side works heavily in workforce development. They will work with organizations to find solutions to bring the right types of workers to those businesses, whether that's just a marketing plan for that business to attract those people, or if it's a wider regional focus that we need to take. They have a lot of different loan programs available to connect businesses with the resources that they need to, whether they're a startup, whether they need to grow, or whether they're trying to relocate to this area or expand to this area. The other thing that we do is we have a very large focus on building the community. We see ourselves as community partners. A lot of people look at a chamber and they can say, it's just about business. Well, it's not. It's about jobs and it's about people and families. A strong business community means that we're creating a very strong quality of life in the region. So if you think about that, that translates into jobs that pay very well. It allows people to put food on the table at home. It translates into partnerships with education foundations. Central Penn College has had a seat on our board for many years. They are very plugged into what the Chamber and CREDIC does. So when we're able to educate people, they're able to find those jobs. When we are able to help businesses grow and expand, they're able to provide those jobs. And they're able to provide great amenities for our community. We have everything from entertainment to restaurants to, these wonderful specialty shops that you find in all of our downtowns.
Let me ask you, now I'm just going to give you a little backstory here. One of the reasons that I think I've been somewhat successful, I don't like to, I like to remain humble as much as entirely possible, is because Whenever I was in college, I really started doing a lot of research about the difference between corporate versus small business. And as Steve will tell you, I haven't stepped foot inside of a Walmart for about 15 years. And it's not just Walmart. I use that as sort of the example of the big boys on top of the mountain. And so one of the things that I try to share with my students is how important it is to support your local businesses. And I use Walmart as sort of a case study. Now, it's not to say that Walmart is not a major employer of people in our country. In fact, probably number one in the country. However, much of the money that is made in the area is not kept local. They're out of they're based in the South, so a lot of the money that's made in this area is going out of our region. So one of the things that I've always tried to do is share with not only just my students but other people how important it is to support our local business, because that money is staying in the community and being recirculated through the community. And I really go out of my way to support small business. Is that something that drew you to the chamber because you love to support small business?
Absolutely. I would say that, my main focus is on making the community that I live and work in a better place. I am a lifelong resident of Dauphin County. I love to support businesses on the East Shore, on the West Shore, our entire region. We are just packed with a wealth of different amenities, from the restaurant scene to, entertainment, everything in between. We have so much to offer in this region. And what the Chamber does every day is to work to strengthen the region that we have.
Excellent. Did you have another question for Kara, Steve?
I actually did. Do you see yourself opening a business? Like further down the line, like 10 years from now?
Is entrepreneurship something that interests you?
I would say I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. From the inside of organizations, I've been very lucky to be able to work in organizations where I've been able to build things from the ground up. Whether that's a new program, whether that's a new department within that organization, or just a different process and way of looking at how we reach a goal. It's something that I always love to connect with different people in my community. And if there was ever, a way that I saw that I could go out on my own and do something that gave people exactly what they needed, I'd be very open to that.
Fantastic. Well, Kara, just a couple of final questions here for you. I understand that you guys are having a job fair coming up in September. Now, I was wondering if you could share some more details about that. Further details about this will be accompanied with the story along with this podcast, but just maybe some of the key points of the job fair coming up in September.
Sure. So the Chamber in Creedick is partnering with the Harrisburg Young Professionals to put on a pretty unique job fair in downtown Harrisburg. It's called Experience Harrisburg. It's on September 28th. And the twist on this job fair is that it's a moving job fair. So we start out in the Whitaker Center downtown, and then we move to the Federal Tap House, which is a great restaurant and bar on 2nd Street in downtown Harrisburg. So within the event, it's a built-in experience to, walk around the town, experience a lot of what's going on, and, see what it's really like to live, work, and play in the city.
One of the things that I thought was... So basically, if I'm understanding this correctly, so you have part job fair, but also part networking fair as well. So it's sort of like a hybrid between the two. I've never heard of anything like that before.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a program that we're very excited about. With our partnership with Harrisburg Young Professionals, we're able to throw a social afterwards. We're able to bring in different vendors such as the Strawberry Square Apartments so that students can get a really good feel for living options in Harrisburg and just bring the whole experience together. Actually, this is an event that we've had for several years, but we have not had it for the past few years. And one of the reasons it's been revived is because we have a board member who is also an HYP member, and he credits this job fair with bringing him to Harrisburg. He was a student at Shippensburg, and somebody walked past him on campus one day and said, "Hey, are you going to Experience Harrisburg?" He said, "What's that?" And that person was able to convince him, hey, hop on the bus with us, come down to Harrisburg, see what it's all about. And he ended up finding a job. And that was a full-time job after college, and he's been in Harrisburg ever since.
That's I love these types of really awesome stories when we do, because I'm always advising students. So we have a big networking fair on campus. We had an internship fair a month or so ago. I mean, we are always doing things here on campus, but there's also so many opportunities in Harrisburg that I think a lot of our students maybe just don't and aren't aware of. So I will make sure that we do everything we can to get some students over to your job fair, because we have a lot of all-stars here on campus. All right, well, about to come into the end of our podcast, I just did want to thank the time. Kara, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to not only come on the podcast, but also come to my class this afternoon. It really means the world to me that I get the opportunity to have such wonderful guest speakers such as yourself come in and educating our students, our future public relations practitioners in the field. So thank you very much for coming today, Kara.
Thank you.
And Steve, as always, thank you very much for joining the Nightly News Podcast. It's always a pleasure to have you on, and I'm going to miss the day when you're no longer on campus for me to give a hard time to, because I certainly do give you a hard time every once in a while.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, so for Kara Canale, for Steve Osango, this is Professor Paul Miller, and we'll catch you next time on the Nightly News Podcast.